What's up? It's Andrew from the band Ripped to Shreds, and today we're going to look at how to learn noisy death metal and Goregrind songs. I'm sure this is a pretty common experience for people into this kind of extreme music where you want to learn it. There's literally no tabs. Would ever think to make tabs for these and upload them online on something like an Ultimate Guitar. I've seen some of the Songster AI tabs, and while they are better than nothing in some cases, in many cases, they're completely wrong. There are some that are wrong in extremely obvious ways. If you load up a Insect Warfare song and it tells you, oh, you play it by just playing the whole time. Yeah, it's really obvious. That's incorrect. But there are also songs that are wrong by a more subtle amount, and it would be difficult for you to know that if you don't already have a bunch of experience with being able to learn these songs by ear. How do you learn songs by ear? You need to be able to recognize intervals. That's an exercise as simple as and internalizing this interval as that's a minor third and being able to recognize it all over you would have to be able to recognize that what I just played are the same intervals no matter where they are on the neck, just by ear. There are various mnemonics for learning intervals, like you would memorize the sound of a fifth interval by referencing the Superman theme. Or like a minor second is, and you remember, okay, that's the Jaws theme. There's really no replacement for just putting in a lot of work learning songs. And as you get better at recognizing intervals, it'll become easier and easier for you to hear a melody and translate it to your hands. This is all very good and easy when you're learning a piece of music that is very easy to hear. You know, maybe it's like a pop song and you want to learn the melody. Okay, you can sing it. It's right there. It's way up front. The problem comes when we are examining music that sounds like this. Maybe you have better ears than I do, but I cannot actually hear a single note in there. I love sulfuric cautery. I love this particular song, Radiation and Salvation, but I'm experiencing more like a wall of noise with the snare blasting to give it some rhythm rather than a set of notes. So if I want to learn this, I have to be able to hear the notes. I'm going to open up Reaper here, and we are going to attempt to clean up the sound a bit so that we can actually hear what the guitar is doing. So this sulfuric cautery song has two rhythm guitars panned right and left. What jumps out to me at the first listen, obviously, snare is super loud. We have to tame the snare. So we want to look for the snare harmonics. So the fundamental of a snare is going to be between like 150 to 200 hertz. And the harmonics are built on that fundamental. So then it'll be at like 300, 450, 600 for the second, third, fourth, something like that. You can usually visually see the harmonics with an EQ, like Fab Filter Pro Q3 here. One way you can do it is by using this headphone looking thing, which is the solo mode. And now you're only listening to what's in that band that you've selected. Okay, so I think that's the snare pretty much out of the way. There's still quite a bit of cymbals. Let's try and take those out. Like, these are moves that you would never make if you were just mixing something, right, or mastering something. But we have a very specific goal right now, and our goal is to make the guitar audible at all costs. If I concentrate, I can hear the guitar If you want to get more granular with the guitar, what you can do, you can right-click this, go down to Item Processing, and hit Explode Multi-Channel Audio into new one-channel items. That will produce two files like this. Left channel, right channel. So if you just pan these all the way to the side, you just get the original thing. But if they're both centered, so you've taken the stereo file, split it into two tracks, now they're both panned hard center. If you flip the polarity of one of them, like that, suddenly everything that was in that center channel is gone. They recorded like, I think 3 vocal tracks, 1 down the center, 2 pan to the sides. So there's still quite a bit of vocals in this particular song. Most bands, all the vocals would disappear. The kick will disappear, the snare will disappear. Some of the cymbals will go away, not all, leaving you with a bit of cymbals on the sides and mostly guitar. The cymbals are definitely overwhelming, so let's just cut some of that out. We have to identify what is being played, right? And I like to do this by singing it out loud. So, da 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 da. If I try to put that on guitar, I'm aware that Trashy plays in A standard, and I have this tuned to drop A. I'm usually not that concerned about being in the exact same tuning as a particular band that I'm learning. If the open strings are necessary, I will actually pull up a RIA pitch and just pitch shift the song either up or down to match the lowest string I have. Quite often, actually, pitching a song up will make the very low-tuned riffs easier to hear and understand. But like when I was trying to learn some of the pulmonary fibrosis songs for that video with Yu Ying, when I pitch shifted it up, I was like, okay, I can hear way better. Not that concerned about playing the exact fingerings that Trashy is using, unless there's a really good reason for it. If there's something particularly complicated, or if it's like a solo with a particular timbre to which string I'm playing which note on, then the tuning really matters if you're trying to nail exactly the same thing that they did. But if you just want to learn the notes, tune how you like, pitch shift the song around, it's up to you. Da 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 da. That sounds about right. Oh no. And if you're like me, and you have a really shitty musical memory, you really want to write this down. You can use Tux Guitar, which is a free tabbing software. It does require you to understand standard notation for rhythm, which is something, you should know. But assuming that you don't, just write it on paper. Lucky for me, this song's short, so I can kind of hold it in working memory. When I'm learning songs that are a lot longer and a lot more complex, or if I'm learning a solo with a ton of notes, I need to have the Guitar Pro software there, so I don't need to try and hold everything in my head. I believe this song is actually just 2 riffs. There's another riff that's... We have that first riff that's like... And then I think we have a simplified version of that comes in here and also here, which sounds like... So it's just da 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 da. So it's just like the first half of that riff repeated without the variation at the end. And then here in the song, I believe... It sounds to me, in the last quarter of the song, it goes back to the first riff, the variation at the end. I will admit, that part is extremely noisy. I'm probably only like 80% sure that what's being played there is correct. Another important part here, going to YouTube, looking for live videos, looking at their hand positions. You can slow things down on YouTube. You can slow things down in Reaper too, but I just don't think it's particularly useful for this example. I hit Shift W to create anchor. Shift W, and I drag it like that. The problem here is not exactly speed for this particular riff. It's really goddamn noisy. I would like to look at one more song here, because this is mono to start with. You can't cancel out the center channel to get the guitar super loud. So this is from Foetopsy's Dispartum, Gagging on the Corpulus. First thing for me, it's super, super bassy. That's just distracting for me. Two more things I noticed right away. The guitar tone is very scooped, which makes it sound more brutal, but it also reduces clarity. So if we boost the mids, that should bring back quite a bit of clarity to the guitar sound. And the second thing is that we're lucky that the vocals are mixed relatively low. They don't take up the entire sonic spectrum. So let's try and fix those real quick. Okay, and then I'm going to take a bit of that snare out. I actually have no idea what this band is tuned to. I'm not sure whether or not they're actually going all the way down to A, because the riffs are faster. This is actually where I will want to slow it down by using that stretch thing I showed a bit earlier. If you try to stretch it too much, it's going to sound really fucking weird. In real extreme cases, especially when I'm dissecting really, really fucking fast shred solos, I might even slow it down as much as like 30% and just try to identify one note at a time and punch that in. Is really tedious. I would not recommend doing that. It's a lot easier if you already understand the style that they're playing. You listen for the contour of the run, and you know what kind of patterns they might be playing, and it'll be a lot easier for you to guess. But in this case, I'm not as familiar with brutal death metal. I'm just going to go slow and see. So you can already see it's sounding pretty weird at 70, so maybe not that slow. It doesn't sound like it's trilled, which is something I might assume for brutal death metal. It sounds more to me like it's being slid. Something like that. Strategy, you've probably been told a million times in taking tests. If you're stuck, move on, come back to it later. Same thing applies to transcribing and learning things. Dun, 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 dun. I believe that's a slam. It sounds like those are the only two real riffs in this song. And the way I would notate it on like paper, this was like a song that you were sharing with bandmates that maybe they don't know how to read rhythm for standard notation, and this is something that you would see with a lot of bands like from the early 90s. They would write down something like A, X4, B, X4, kind of like that. Okay, so then the slam repeats once, and then So I guess you could call that slam chopped in half. So they keep playing it to the end. Let's try and count that. Okay, so total of 12 times. This is how I would write it down to remember or to show other band members if I was writing a song like that. So specifically for this foetopsy song, I would say I'm probably only like 60 or 70% sure what that A riff is, just because I'm so much less familiar with brutal death metal. And a lot of learning stuff is just being very familiar with the style and knowing how things should sound. So if you've already learned a lot of Goregrind songs, okay, I listened to the sulfuric cautery song, I've transcribed some of Trashy's parts before, I can make a pretty good guess what Trashy is playing. But for like this foetopsy song, I almost never learn brutal death metal parts. It's going to be a lot harder for me to be like, okay, they're doing this, they're doing this. I think it's a pretty good guess of what that A riff is, but I'm just not 100% sure. Back to what I was talking about at the start. Even after you've EQ the songs to make them a little more hearable, it's going to be a lot easier for you to relate those pitches to your instrument ear training. You also want to be able to read rhythms out of standard notation, because those are really just the basic building blocks for being a better musician. Musictheory.net. The stuff on there is free. It's got a really good ear interval trainer. Put some time into it. You'll be able to relate the pitches to your instrument. You'll be able to sing it in your head. And when you listen to a riff being played like this, you will be able to go, okay, I hear dun dun on my guitar. It's just dun dun. That's how you learn noisy ass songs by ear when there are no tabs and you got to do everything yourself. That's all for today, folks. Eat ass, blast fast. I will have the t-shirt for that soon, actually. September 20th, I will be in Los Angeles at 1720 with my band Ripped to Shreds, and I hope to see you all there. Peace.